أهلا بكم في CBR كايرو بيزنس راديو، أول راديو بيزنس في مصر.
Dear listeners from all across Africa, welcome to a new episode of Doing Business in Africa. This is Sameh Raouf talking to you from Cairo Business Radio. As ever, our businesses to get connected, to help businesses to build the pipeline, and to encourage intra-African trade. In our previous episodes, we covered different sectors. We covered healthcare, we covered energy, we covered logistics, we covered tourism, infrastructure, and so many other sectors. And usually there was one main common challenge: having the right infrastructure in Africa and having access to investment opportunities. And today we're coming to answer this need. Today, we believe that we are bringing the right caliber, the right candidate, the right capacity to answer the questions raised in our previous episodes. We're so lucky to have with us on this episode Mr. Sameh Shenouda. Mr. Sameh Shenouda is a big capacity when it comes to investment in Africa. Recently, he has joined Africa Finance Corporation as a Chief Investment Officer and Executive Director, and I won't talk much about his background. Mr. Sameh, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us. A very warm welcome to our show. Congratulations on the new appointment. And as ever, we love to start by asking our guest to walk us through his own journey, his profile.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Samar, for having me on the show. I really appreciate you making the effort. Just a bit of background on myself. Before I joined AFC in January of this year, I was CEO of Zaru, which is a fully owned investment company and infrastructure company that was owned by Blackstone. And the mandate of Zaru was to build, own, and operate infrastructure projects in Africa and South Asia. Before that, I was head of infrastructure at CDC, which is the UK DFI, where we were mandated to invest in infrastructure as well in South Asia and in Africa. Before that, I was with Orascom in Egypt, even though my mandate covered the region, where I was head of natural gas industries in the company. And before that, I was in private equity with Actis at CDC.
What an impressive profile, and the beauty of that it's all focused on doing business in Africa. Really, thank you so much. And again, congratulations on the new appointment. Now, Africa Finance Corporation is one of the biggest investors in Africa. Apparently, you mainly focus on the infrastructure projects, but I would love to know more about the sectors that you work within and also the parts of Africa that you work in.
Thank you. So we work in many infrastructure sectors. We work in power, conventional power and renewables, and we have a big drive to focus on renewables since I joined. We work in transport and logistics, and this covers ports, rail, roads, airports, and logistics covering warehousing, storage, liquid storage, and other forms of e-logistics. We work in heavy industries, in telecoms and technology, and we also work in natural resources, so oil and gas, upstream and midstream, and mining as well. And in terms of the countries, our mandate is Africa. We work in any country in Africa. We don't we don't prioritize or discriminate. Africa has 54 countries, and we can invest in 54 countries.
So far, you've already invested in 35 countries, I believe?
Correct.
Mainly in the West and Sub-Saharan?
Yes, exactly.
Okay. Do you have offices in the countries where you operate or run projects within?
No, we don't. With the model we follow is that we have a headquarters in Lagos. Our headquarters are in Lagos, and we don't see a need to open offices. We have very strong relationships on the ground with local partners, with governments. So we don't see a need for any presence on the ground at this stage.
Okay, just to understand the magnitude and the impact of the projects that you manage and you operate. So can you just share with us some like references of the projects you have already concluded in Africa?
So let me give you the big picture first. Since we started, the company has invested $8.5 billion in Africa. Our ticket size is anywhere between $30 million to $250 million, depending on the need of the project and the size of the opportunity. We have made a number of significant investments. For example, we have 5 ports. 2 of them are operational, 2 under construction, and 1 that is currently being developed. The total investment, I cannot tell you the exact figure due to confidentiality, but this is a couple of $100 million. We have recently, for example...
It's still under construction?
No, 2 of them are operational. 2 ports are operational. 2 of them are under construction, and 1 is still early stage development.
Okay.
We also, one thing that I did not mention, that we also do government lending as well. We can lend governments. So in January of this year, we lent the government of Cote d'Ivoire $170 million so that they use that money to build infrastructure projects. We have made large investments in mining, in manganese, in bauxite, and in others. And these, again, range between $50 million to more than $200 million.
How do you see so far with your experience in Africa? Definitely your previous experience counts as well, for sure. How do you see the business environment, the atmosphere, because the entire focus is on Africa and has been on African countries, which is a bit like it's not a traditional market or destination for investors. How do you see the environment when you invest in African states?
So I'll tell you, there is a misconception that Africa is one market. Africa has 54 markets with 54 different environments, and we need to make a decision for each investment on the merits of the investment given the risk profile of that country. So there are some countries where the environment is very compelling, where the need is there, where there is a large population or there's a huge gap in infrastructure. And there are other countries where it's complicated to do business, or there's no demand, for example, or the government is still controlling most of the infrastructure and is not opening it up for the private sector. So we look at each country separately and we assess how compelling the case is and how easy it is and what the environment, as you mentioned, is to execute transactions there.
A smart answer. Okay. Let me ask about, definitely, we can't ignore COVID-19 and how it came to reshape the priorities and reshape the investment opportunities globally, and definitely Africa is a big part of this. How COVID-19 impacted your investment plan?
So So it has impacted not only our investment plan, it has impacted all businesses across the world, as you said, and in Africa as well. So it really depends on the sector, and it really depends on the phase at which the project is. So, for example, if you have a power plant that is under construction, then the contractor will not be able to bring their workers to build the power plant. However, if the power plant is operational, then it will continue to operate because people need the power in their homes. So it depends on the situation really. But the sectors that have been affected are the ones that are related to transport, that are related to tourism, that are related to things that get healthcare, for example, etc. But we see it as, going forward, we see it as an opportunity for Africa, what happened over the last year. Because Africa is a producer of commodities, and these commodities are exported to Asia, mainly to China. They are manufactured into a final product, and this final product is exported back to Africa or to Europe or to the US. Now, with the disruptions in trade flows during COVID, we felt that there is an opportunity in Africa to build the manufacturing capability there by building manufacturing facilities close to the mines, where the products are mined, whether it's iron ore, whether it's gold, whether it's magnesium, and add value in Africa and export the final products rather than the commodity or the raw material.
My question was mainly, with the focus on infrastructure projects, being transport, being logistics, energy, and so on, have you considered to pivot a little bit to the healthcare sector, since it shows the need to have a really quality healthcare coverage and facility within a big number of the African countries?
It is something that we are looking at. We are also looking at opportunities to build vaccine production facilities. We are also looking for something that is even more related to what we do now, is the logistics and transport of the vaccine. So one example.
That's okay. That's key, really. Yes.
Yes, because one of the issues that Africa has is that we don't have a cold chain supply chain.
Exactly.
So most of the vaccines for COVID and for many other things require a cold chain that is very efficient, that has no flaws, and that is reliable, which does not exist currently in Africa. So this limits the opportunity for Africa to get maybe one or two of the vaccines that can be stored at room temperature. As opposed to the majority of the other vaccines that need a cold store. So this is an area that we will be looking at and focus on as well on the logistics side, in addition to looking at the pharmaceuticals and healthcare potential.
Oh, that's great. Okay, now I've seen that you recently announced, actually, I think earlier this year, you announced that you will start to invest in green energy, mainly renewables.
Correct.
Well, I think you prefer to focus on other sectors rather than the renewables as per the need of the continent, that the basics were not yet met, and renewables would come later on in terms of priorities. So what made this shift? What made you to revisit this consideration and come to consider to bundle even the renewable energy and start to heavily consider this domain?
So let me make a slight correction here. We have been focusing on both conventional power and renewable power as well. We have a number of assets that are either operational or under construction or under development. So, for example, we are in the process of building a wind farm in Djibouti. We already own a wind farm in Cape Verde, and we are in the process of developing a solar power plant in Guinea. However, given there are two things here at play. One is, as you said, the need of the country, and if the country has a lot of gas or a lot of oil, then the obvious fuel we will use to build the power plant is whatever the fuel that is in the country. However, there's a drive internationally across the world towards renewable energy. And in our view, renewable energy, whether it's wind, solar or hydro, is the future. There will always be conventional power. There will always be the majority of the grid in Africa will always be conventional power. But if you only set a target as a government, like for example in Egypt, the target is 20% renewables, and in other countries as well, the gap is still very big. And we as AFC need to be leading the initiatives and support the governments to get to their target in renewable energy.
How would you see, or what's the right energy mix for Africa that would enable Africa to benefit really from the wealth and the mine of resources available across the continent? So Egypt has set the target, as you rightly mentioned, to be 20%. In other countries, it's even more, up to 30%. I mean, do you see Africa in future is even more capable of generating and shaping its energy mix on a more like bold target? Like, would 30% be achievable, and we can go beyond the 30% even?
So Africa has the ingredients to get to these ambitious targets. It has a lot of sun, it has a lot of water, and there are areas in Africa that are very windy. Now, the challenge with renewables is not just to build a power plant. The challenge is the intermittence of the renewable energy. So solar is available in the morning, but not available at night. And wind blows usually, depending on the location, wind blows more in the evening than in the morning.
Yes.
So you have to have a very strong grid to support the intermittency of renewable energy. And you have to have what we call base load, which is enough capacity of conventional power or of hydropower, let's say, to make sure that the grid doesn't trip. So getting to 30% is ambitious, is possible, but you need to make sure that you have a strong grid, and you need to make sure that you have a reliable baseload capacity.
Yes, consistency and I think sustainability would be really needed in future, but it's definitely attainable. Now, I would love to move to the investment environment. So definitely you work with the African states, the African government, and you work also with investors. So do you work with other investors for fundraising and or even for joint cooperation from Africa?
So look, we work with everyone. We work with, as I said, we work with governments. We work with the private sector. We co-invest with other financial investors. We lend as well with other banks. We are very flexible. We're very open. As long as we can add value and have impact, we usually work with anyone. So, for example, in our ports portfolio, in our ports platform, we have an international partner, Olam, and we have recently brought in AP Moller, which is an infrastructure fund that is backed by a number of Danish pension funds and the Maersk family.
Okay, and from this solid network of friends and partners, Do you have also African business community that you cooperate with? Because like strengthening them and encouraging the African investors as well would also help the entire ecosystem in Africa.
Agreed. And this is exactly the model we follow. We look for strong local partners and we partner with them and we help them grow. So, for example, we invested in a few years ago in a fuel storage terminal in a West African country. We put about $15 million into it. The company has grown and it was only backing one local partner, and the company has grown, and now it's acquiring another business for $60 million, and we're supporting them to do that. And this is a company that has no foreign partners. It's 100% local.
This is a success story and a case study, really, because we believe that within Africa, we have all the resources, we have all the muscles to grow and to shine. We just need maybe some kind of support, some kind of beliefs and investors who really believe in this part of the world. So thank you so much for sharing this inspiring story. How about Egypt?
How about Egypt? Tell me. You tell me.
I think great potential is there. I know that you've had some interesting meetings with some authorities and a number of authorities here. So what to expect?
So look, I'll tell you, let's take a step back. Egypt has done in the last 5 to 7 years. In terms of structuring, devaluing the currency, improving the infrastructure. I was in Egypt only in the last few weeks, and you see the huge difference in the quality of the roads and the quality of transport. Egypt had power issues only 4 or 5 years ago. Now
yes, imagine. Yeah, imagine we have access even. Yes, imagine. Yes.
So a lot has happened that is in the right direction. Egypt was one of the very few countries that had a GDP growth during the COVID year, which is very impressive. It has a young population. It has a large population that will continue to grow, and you need to build the infrastructure to support that and to help it grow. So this is at the macro level, but there are cases where you also see success stories in specific sectors that we work in. So in the power sector, the opening up the power sector to the private sector, the Benban solar park is a great success story. The transport sector has seen a major transformation in the last 18 to 24 months. And this we can feel in the roads, but also it's coming in the rail as well.
Yes.
So we feel we are very, very excited about supporting Egypt grow. We are talking, as you said, to a number of players in the private sector and in the public sector. And I am personally keen to let's say plant the AFC flag in Egypt and do quite a lot there.
Likewise, really likewise. But should we expect this in near future? I know that currently you are in talks, and there are some talks and there are some I would say good news. Maybe it's coming or still in the pipeline. But should we expect something within 2021, or more strategic may take longer time?
So it's a bit of, I hope, InshaAllah, we close something in 2021, maybe 1 or 2 transactions. But the nature of the business requires you to have a balance of the immediate opportunities and then build on the longer term opportunities as well. so that you always have a continuous flow of pipeline projects. So we're starting now on projects that might close in a year or two, but we're hopefully going to close hopefully at least one transaction this year.
Okay, so here are the good news. Thank you so much for sharing this with us. Now, you mentioned that you were talking as well to the private sector. You were in talks when, in your last visit, you were in talks with the private sector as well, not only the government bodies.
Correct.
Any details?
No, sorry, I can't hear details.
Okay, so we have a business community in Egypt, like the Egyptian African Businessmen Association and others. Do you meet with them, share some lesson to them, exchange with them?
Yes, look, I am not only in Egypt, but everywhere in Africa. We have, so look, you said something at the beginning, which is very correct. AFC is one of the largest players in Africa. And our strength comes from a number of things. We're not just a large balance sheet. We are owned by governments. We are owned by banks. And the weight we bring to the table is not the check we write. It's not only the check we write. It is also the weight of the organization, the shareholders, and the relationships on the ground. So when we talk to our partners and potential partners in Egypt or elsewhere, they understand the value of AFC and there are some cases where they have options of other potential investors and they choose us. One other very interesting thing that I am also pushing and keen for across Africa, and when I was in Egypt, I did the same, is that we are an ideal catalyst to help local companies grow regionally. So expand into Africa, grow, build another manufacturing plant, open an office, open a branch, etc. And I told the people, I always tell the people who I meet, use us, use our connections, use our relationships, use our weight to help you grow regionally as well.
Having a partner with your magnitude, as you rightly mentioned, it's not only about the injection and the cash that you bring or the fund that you bring. It's about a credibility that you bring to the entire project and to the ones who run the project. It's about the governance. So that's why the more partners and the bigger the network is, the higher the credibility of the business network in Africa, and it gives us muscles and it gives us support. So it's really needed, and as you rightly mentioned, it is beyond the funds and the cash that you inject or you bring to the project. So really good to know and great news about Egypt. Okay, now there is a growing trend, and Africa is a big pool of talents and targets, which is the startups. Our countries are young, and now the new trend of having a number of startups, they drive the economy, they really bring energy to the markets. So is it within your horizon that you can support the startup ecosystem in Africa, or in some countries at least, as a pilot phase? I mean here, daring ideas, untapped business ideas, approaches that are initiated by young people. They are fresh enough to think out of any, I wouldn't say the box, but of any boundaries, and they really come with great impact in some cases. Of course, not all of them, and this again, it brings a lot of positive environment vibes. It really impacts the GDP, and so far in Egypt, it has been, we have a number of successful cases in Nigeria as well. And now businesses, investment arms are considering to further support this segment of young entrepreneurs.
So look, we have a team that does project development. And by project development, we mean greenfield early stage projects that we support, that the sponsor come to us and they say, look, we have this project, or we have a plot of land, we have initial agreement from government to build an infrastructure project there. Can you help us? So a lot of investors don't take that early stage risk. We do. However, we only do this in the sectors that we operate in. So if you're thinking of startups as in technology startups, if you are thinking of technology startups that need $500,000 or $1 million, that's not our business. We are an infrastructure player. So, but if it's a power plant,
mega
or if
projects.
it's a mine, it doesn't have to be mega, but it's we can spend $1, $2, $3 million on developing a project, but the project itself, once it's developed, will be quite large. Also, we are not a venture capital player. If you're implying technology, then there are specialized players who have the skills to look at technology startups and give them $500,000 or $1 million. Unfortunately, we don't have that capacity within AFC.
Okay, well, I've seen really a good number of them, and even in the energy sector. But of course, the magnitude and the size is much smaller. But they always need to get incubated and inspired and so on. Okay, where do you see the opportunities in Africa in the coming 5 years?
So the opportunities are, a lot of opportunities are in logistics, transport, power, gas, technology, and sovereign lending, so lending to governments as well. And I think Africa is a very interesting market because it has a huge population. It's young, it's growing, and there will always be a need for the infrastructure to be built for these people to live, to eat, to get educated, to get treated, to move, to be transported from one place to the other, to work, to school. So the mere fact that you have a critical mass of a huge population represents very large opportunities. The challenge is how to make the projects work, how to be efficient, and how to try to build the projects and develop them as quickly as possible.
With this huge opportunities in Africa, why Africa is always associated with high risk? Because
of a lot of things. First, there are a number of things that make projects very difficult to develop. One is bureaucracy. Things take forever. 2 is corruption. 3 is the lack of skills within the government. So you need people within government to know how to negotiate a power purchase agreement, to know how to develop a project, to understand that the private sector needs to make money and needs to build quickly, and if they don't, they will go look for other opportunities. I always tell people I meet when things slow down a bit is that we have the map of our mandate countries in front of us. If you're going to take 2 years to get approval for the project, there are other countries who will do it much sooner. So and I have my resourcing, my team, our time is limited. We're not a company of 3,000 people. We have a small, very, very efficient, competent team. But if I'm going to lose 2-3 years doing a project in one country, I'd rather spend these 3 years doing 2-3 projects in other countries. So there is a combination of challenges that are very difficult to overcome, and that's why, in our view, very few players can navigate the system in Africa, and we think we're one of the best to do that.
Okay, you're one of the best to do that, and that's for sure. As one of the best, and you've really concluded some good projects, and you have this access and you have this big picture of the investment scene in Africa. If you want to succeed in Africa, what are the key success factors?
You have to be very patient. You have to be very pushy. You need to keep on pushing very hard to get the projects done. You have to start small and with a view to build size over time. You will not find many billion-dollar projects or $500 million projects. But and this is exactly what we're doing in the Renewables platform. You cannot, as we say, you cannot only chase elephants or hunt elephants in Africa. You have to find small to medium-sized projects. You build or buy a few of them. You create critical mass, and then you do a next one that's a bit bigger, etc. And it's an aggregation game. You aggregate a number of renewable assets that will get you to the 500 million or to the billion over 3 years' time, over 5 years' time. But if you keep chasing the very large projects, you will never get there.
Yeah.
And this is our strategy to attract third party capital. Is that we, in renewables, for example, we will build a number of projects to get to the critical mass that would attract European, American, Asian investors to come in and invest either alongside us in the platform or buy it off us and we go and do something else.
We want to see more Dangotes. We want to see more Sawiras in Africa. Do you think if we have the right formula, we can have more mega successful local businesses like the one you've just mentioned, the local company that you've supported, and they managed to grow and grow and grow. So we want to see more big organizations that they can positively impact GDPs, impact economies, and take Africa to where it should belong.
I agree with you, and I think we should do that. But I think the key drivers to the GDP are also mid-sized companies as well. So the target should be not to have 2 or 3 mega companies. Should not only be having 2 or 3 mega companies in Africa. It should be having very large companies, but also helping the small and mid-sized companies to become large. They don't have to be billion-dollar companies, but to take, as the example I gave you, to take a $15 million opportunity to grow it to 60 and then to 100 and then to 200. But I think the starting point has to be, you need to find the right partner and the right opportunity with a big chance of supporting it to grow. And once you build that relationship of helping someone grow from a small or mid-sized company, they will always come to you first to help them grow from 50 to 100 million, and from 100 to 500 and then more.
Well, thank you so much. Really, it's very insightful. It's very informative. It's great to come to speak to you. Just one last question. In this new chapter for you, what's your top priority?
My top priority is to help AFC grow to a very different level in terms of size, in terms of sectors, and to be leaders in the new trends in the world, whether it's renewable energy, technology, and other sectors that are needed. I'm a strong believer that AFC has all the ingredients for success. It only needs people who are focused and hardworking with a vision to take it to the next level.
Thank you so much. All the best in this exciting journey. I think we will see and we will expect to see lots of great news, great successes coming from AFC. Soon we'll see you in Egypt, inshallah. All the best. And we hope that we can meet with you again, maybe towards the end of this year, so that you can share with us the experience and how you managed to deliver on your priorities and how you see the big picture now. Thank you so much, really, for your time. I've much enjoyed it.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Our dear listeners, this was one of the very exciting episodes that we had on doing business in Africa. I hope you have enjoyed this as much as we did. Looking forward to hear from you, to have your feedback, and stay tuned. More exciting shows and interviews coming from Doing Business in Africa next week and the week after and the week after. Thank you so much and see you soon.
أهلا بكم في CBR كايرو بيزنس راديو، أول راديو بيزنس في مصر.